And good morning to everyone tuning in to this awesome Facebook Live on Friday. Dr. Gino Colora with Dr. Bill Anton. We're here with CEO Effectiveness. And Dr. Anton, good morning.
Good morning. Nice day.
We always love doing these quick Facebook Lives and having quick discussions with everybody.
They're great.
End of the week, Friday morning, and everyone tuning in, we know you've been working hard. And one of the things that we want to talk about is one of Dr. Anton's books entitled Ascend, Forging a Path to Your Truer Self. And for all the entrepreneurs, all the business owners out there, the idea of pushing ourselves to the next level, being able to understand that we have just a little bit more in the tank, or perhaps a vast amount more in the tank that we haven't accessed, right? Because we simply just don't know how. And that's exactly what this book talks about.
Exactly.
Right. So Dr. Anton, kind of walk me through, what led you, what motivated you to write this book?
Yeah. Well, actually, what led me to write that book was based on the first book that I wrote, which was Business Success Through Self-Knowledge. It was somewhat technical, and it was somewhat focused for just a business audience, particularly leaders. And so people kept telling me, why don't you take these concepts and translate it into something that would be beneficial to everyone, like business leaders, executives, because the principles are the same. And the basic principle is that most of us look for the answers outside of ourselves. We assume that we're kind of unchangeable and that we can add skills and knowledge and abilities ad infinitum, and that's going to make us more effective. But the real frontier and the really hard, difficult frontier to master is the frontier inside. But the rewards are tremendously, are much greater than you could achieve in any other way. And when you say adding a little bit more, I think there are neuroscientists like Robert K. Cooper who says and who documents that we only really access 1/10,000th of our potential. Wow. And we keep trying to squeeze more out of what we think is our potential, and we never really understand that that's only a fraction of what we're capable of.
So one of the things that I noticed, and obviously having read the book myself, and it has helped me tremendously, but this concept, and it's in the title, forging, right? How it is to forge a path to being more in tune with what's going on with the inner frontier, what's going on inside, right? And kind of to our discussion earlier this week, cutting out the outside because there's so much more going on the inside that we have to focus on.
Right.
So when we think about that process of forging, is it something that is done very fast? Does it take time? Is it a process? What does that look like?
Well, some of it depends on the individual.
Okay.
But I think basically the reason it's forging is that you can only process, you can't sort of jump from A to Z. You have to sort of follow a process. And what Ascend does is it takes all of the areas where people get stuck, and it's an allegory about individuals that lived on the base of a mountain, or where everyone is born at the base of the mountain. And as you acquire knowledge about yourself, and as you get to know yourself more, then you ascend the mountain. And there's even sort of like a tattoo on your back that other people can see, but you're less likely to see. And so as you ascend the mountain, you gain more wisdom, which is a reason why everyone is born at the bottom. And then each chapter deals with a character in the allegory that actually illustrates the major kinds of areas and the major kinds of ways that we get stuck as individuals. And then each chapter ends with sort of like, if you see yourself in this, here are some things you can do. And so it's kind of like forging, because each chapter forges a different area where people tend to get stuck and gives you some things you can actually do to get unstuck.
So, and that's such a great point. When we think about where people get stuck, and not to give it away, because you definitely want to read it for yourself, but what would you say is the largest area, right, where people have challenges, right, when it comes to ascending and being able to navigate that inner frontier?
I think that the biggest area where people get stuck is that they give their thoughts and ideas too much power. They never question themselves. They question the environment, they question others, but they never really look at themselves. And if you begin to at least not doubt the things that you know are realistic, but all of us have areas in ourselves that are sort of like our Achilles heel. And what we do is we tend not to look at them and to sort of forge in the wrong direction, which is we forge on the outside without a navigation system on the inside. And then another area that I think people really confuse is there's a huge difference between self-awareness and self-knowledge. And self-awareness is just being able to describe yourself relatively objectively, but it doesn't change anything. And I like to use the example of the person with a chip on their shoulder. They could say, well, I know I'm angry, but that's just me. Well, it isn't just you. Like in our most evolved state where our frontal lobes are fully engaged, we're adaptable, we're clear thinking, we know how to engage with others, we know how to influence others, we know how to get people to align their true desires with the desires of an organization that we had. And so it's a totally different world. It's an easier world, and it's a world that's much more rewarding, and where business is much more effective and where people who work there are happier. The problem is that the person that's not in that world doesn't see a pathway to that world. And Ascend is really the pathway, or it's the first glimpse of the pathway. And then there's often individual work that needs to be done, coaching, other kinds of things that will really help you get over the really tough spots, but it's all there.
You know, it's so interesting. And I know for me, when I read Ascend, I think about navigating the inner frontier, and I think about forging that path. And I know for me, it's like walking through the woods or in a jungle, right? And in order for me to clear a path, I need a machete, right? In order to cut my way through. Right. And this is that machete, right? It allows me to have that tool to understand what's needed to cut through and create that path. So I have a clear understanding of where I'm going.
Yeah, but I would say that many of us use the machete to cut a path through the woods, but how effectively we use the machete depends on what we know about where the path is leading. Do we have our bearings? And those are things that come from the internal frontier. And so I would say, using the machete as a metaphor, that even using the machete optimally is tied to your relationship with yourself. Yeah.
There you have it. Dr. Bill Anton, Ascend. Go to our website, www.ceoeffectiveness.com. You will see it on our homepage. There's audiobook, there's hardback, paperback, the whole nine. Check it out. I promise you, as someone who's as an individual, it's an incredible piece of literature that it will change your life. Dr. Bill Anton, always a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Make it a great week, and have a great weekend. It's Friday.
Yeah, it is. It's a great Friday too.
Absolutely. Have a great day.